Welcome to the season finale of Surviving Tourism. Guys, you did it. You made it to the end. I'm so thankful for all the feedback and to know that you guys enjoyed the season. This was just a fun little side project, so I'm glad it turned out as good as it did. And I hope it sparked some joy in you. We had a very difficult 2020, a mediocre start to 2021. So hopefully the podcast has helped out, at least on Fridays, maybe the weekend and whatnot. Just to let you guys know, we had some issues with our audio on this episode, so the quality won't be as good as the other episodes, but the content is just as great. So without further ado, please enjoy the season finale of Surviving Tourism. Welcome to the podcast, Surviving Tourism. We have another wonderful episode, but before we get started, let's first introduce our guest today. Our guest is quite special because our guest has been a trained chef for 2 years. Then she became a cruise ship chef for another 2 years. We all know there's going to be some stories from that. And last year, she was a chef in the travel company that I worked for, both traveling with the passengers and cooking for them off the side of the road at times. Guys, please welcome from Peterborough, Ontario. Here's Hayley Lewin. Hayley, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so pumped that you're here. We made it happen.
Yes, we did.
We did. We've been talking about this for like 3 weeks.
I know. We've talked for a little while now. We've just both been busy with academia.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Hayley and I have both taken the opportunity that coronavirus has given us to start studying again. So Absolutely. I'm studying journalism and you are studying?
Bachelor of Commerce.
Bachelor of Commerce. I didn't want to get the name wrong, so I was just going to let you say it.
Yes. It's culinary based, so it's an extension of culinary management, but it's just an extension to get a Bachelor of Commerce degree.
Exactly. And I'm really pumped you're here because we've had a lot of tour guides on, but we haven't had a chef yet. So you have a fresh perspective on everything that is traveling and dealing with customers on the road and on cruise ships as well. Like, you're full of experience, I'm sure. But before we get to the stories, how about we talk a little bit how we met? So do you remember the first day that we met?
Absolutely. So I think from what I remember, it was our first day on our training location.
Yes.
And we were actually awaiting your arrival. So we had already been there. We had already set up. And for those who don't know, we actually cook for this company. We cook out of cook tents. So we'd already set up the tents. We were already done our shopping, and we are actually starting the process of cooking for dinner, I believe. Is this correct?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. When we arrived, it was that we were told. So we were told by the trainers, go introduce yourself to everybody. So I'm like, okay, I got to go say hi to everybody, right? And thankfully, I had met all the other tour guides, so there was less people to meet because there was more tour guides than anyone else. So I'm meeting the chefs. Were there 6 of you guys at the start?
There was 6 of us.
Yeah, yes. 6, right? So I'm meeting the chefs. I say hi to a couple of them, and then I get to Hayley, and I'm like, hi, I'm Paula. And she's like, hi, I'm Hayley. I'm from Canada. I'm like, whoa, finally I'm going to remember this person because the other people I've said hi to, I've already forgotten them because there's, 6 is too many for me. So I'm like, oh, you're from Canada. I'm from Canada. I thought we bonded for a second. And then 3 seconds later, she comes up to me and goes, hi, I'm Hayley. And I'm like, I know, we just said hi.
Listen, here's the thing. You say that remembering 6 people is too much. Okay, yes. So there were 6 chefs. How many training tour leaders were there?
I want to say something like 27.
It was about 27, 28. And so you had to remember 6. Off the bat, we've just been introduced. Now, not only have we just, because we also had drivers that had also spent the last week training with us as well, who were also going to be introduced to you and had moved from the Netherlands to the English site that we were going to be training with you guys at. So not only had we just spent the last week trying to remember like 16 drivers' names, our own names in the, you know, the muck of all of it. And then 28 new arriving trainers and training tour guides. And so, yes, you got 6. We had close to 30.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I swear to
I just thought we bonded. That's why.
Absolutely. There was an instant connection. And
it was like there's only 3
lost.
Canadians, me, the other guide, and Hayley.
Yes.
We're definitely gonna remember each other. No, within 30 seconds, she had introduced herself for the second time to me.
Do you know what's funny though? Is after that point, because I get very embarrassed because I am actually horrific with names. It's always been a downfall of mine. Like I'm very embarrassed, and I think people realize like I will avoid trying to even say someone's name if I don't know, and I don't want to make sure it's fully certain. But I made a very big point of making sure that I remembered your name for the rest of that training trip in the UK. And I think you know how I remembered was that it was from your initials on your name. I gave you like the nickname.
Yeah.
It almost.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it's Paula G. Paula G.
So my middle name starts with a G, and I'm lactose intolerant. So all the chefs had my info because they had to cook separate meals for me. I'm so sorry, by the way. I feel really bad about that because I have my pills. I could have taken them, but whatever. So they had to cater to all the diets. I was the lactose intolerant one. And so they all had to say hi to me and talk to me to like make sure that they recognize who I was and all that. And for whatever reason, they put my middle name as my last name there. So I was Paula G, lactose free, which rhymes, sounds great. And everyone was like, yo, Paula G, Paula G. My last name starts with an S, but but it's fine, you know? So
I made a very, very big point of making sure that I remembered your name.
I forgot about Paula G.
The Paula G lactose free. You sound like a talk show host when I called you that. It was hilarious.
Yeah, like that should be the slogan for this podcast. Paula G. Yeah, this podcast is hosted by Paula G, lactose free. That's me.
Lactose free.
Love that.
Amazing.
Love that. Well, we're off to a great start. So as you know, we're here though to really get down to like those stories, funny, crazy, weird, anything that like your average person just wouldn't hear or wouldn't experience because they don't work in the travel sector with customers, whether it's hospitality or in your case, as a chef catering to the public. So off the top of your head, what story comes to you when you think of like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, or this is crazy, or this was this hilarious incident? Just take it away.
Okay. Well, for a little bit of context, when we're talking about being an on-the-road chef, so last year, a lot of my time was spent with a fellow trip leader and a bus driver, following them around and cooking throughout whatever designated trip that we were on.
Right.
So last year, I was actually assigned 2 different trips. One of them was a basic sort of European trip, and the other was what they call like the Russian Scandinavia, in which I was there for the Scandinavian sort of part of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes, it was one of those days where if anything could have gone wrong, it did. And and not even just a little bit, like a lot.
Okay.
And for all those, listeners out there, no joke, if anyone doesn't know this, but there is actually a place in Scandinavia called Hell. And we were actually destined and on our way to hell. We were literally on our way to hell.
Actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yes. And the devil was out to play that day. I swear to goodness. So how to explain this? So when we go on these trips, what a lot of people don't realize, or a lot of people have to do a bit of research on, is that Norway's food is very, very expensive. And for when I am cooking for up to 40, if not over 40 people, even things like bread, milk, and juice, accumulatively, when I have to do shopping every 2 to 3 days, becomes very, very, very expensive.
Right.
Our trip actually starts in Berlin. And so I actually did the majority of my dry and non-perishable food shopping, including like UHT milk and juice and things like that, in Berlin. So anyway, we're past this part. We're on our way. We're in Norway. We're going up to hell. And I had not only
We're going up to hell. We're not going down to hell. We're going up to hell.
No, we're going up to
this
hell.
hell's frozen over literally because it's in Norway.
Yeah, we're going up. We're headed. We're on our way. And I think this was our first stop in Norway, actually. So I think we had just come from Finland, and we were going up to our first stop in Norway before we go to the very top, and then we sort of make our way back down. And what a lot of people don't realize is that anything that's a coach or a truck or anything that goes along these highways, I think this is a global thing, is that they do sometimes get waived.
Right.
To make sure that they are at a legal driving weight. And so, as you can imagine, the day that on our way to hell, we get pulled over into a weighing station. And this is our first time. We're at the very beginning of this trip.
So I still have food, all the people.
Let's say this. I haven't actually cooked anything for these guys yet, as opposed to a couple of picnic lunches. So we're on our way to hell. I have all the equipment, which includes full gas bottles, not
right. Propane gas?
Full gas bottle. Barbecue gas. I've got grills. I've got a full tent. I've got dry goods, cleaning goods, everything, seats, chairs, lilos and tents, everything under this coach, as well as all of the top racks where the passengers sort of sit. There's no space in the luggage for those shelves above their seats.
Packed with stuff. Everybody brought
pasta, cereal, you name it.
They couldn't even put their stuff up there. You have your food where they would put their bag. Oh, okay.
Generally, yes. I would try and condense it as much as I could. But on the first little bit, when I've got 10 straight days of cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner for them, it was very, very congested up there.
Got it.
So, as you can imagine, we have 43 passengers, 40 passengers, 3 staff, and all of their luggage, by the way, which they're supposed to have a 20-kilo limit on a passenger's luggage, but as you can imagine, not everyone, does that, and all the food and everything like that. So obviously, as you can imagine, boom, overweight. What are we gonna do? So we unload all of my equipment, all of my cooking equipment, everything. They're like, you cannot go on unless you are under the weight. So we had to stay there and remove everything. I had to sit with my stuff and watch my bus coach roll away off the hell.
Well, you and all your cooking gear stayed behind. What about the food?
Yeah. So some of the food could stay. It just really, some of it was in boxes, so it was easy to transport. Any of the loose items we tried to keep on.
Yeah. You got left behind on your way to hell.
I left behind.
Maybe I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah. Thank goodness I had snacks, because I think I was there for about 2.5 hours waiting. And then going back and forth, liaising with my team. And all of a sudden, my trip leader rolls around the corner in this rented van, and he said, "Get in, bitch, we're going shopping." I'm just so relieved. We load up this truck. Our driver, bless his wonderful soul, he was probably one of the most organized drivers I've ever seen in my life.
That's good.
So funny. And he actually decided so he dropped my trip leader off to get a van to come and get me while our driver took over the trip leading position.
Oh, wow.
And took them to hell, as is fitting. While we went ahead and drove straight to the campsite. So we made it. You know what I mean? Eventually we got there and all was good, but there was fear of getting weighed again. Thankfully we didn't, but we did have to sort of donate some of our dry goods and heavyweight items, as well as making our passengers drink the majority of their alcohol on that first night. And
I'm sure they weren't upset about that.
Drink in moderation, everyone. And so that day was great. Everything was going fine. My trip leader and driver actually had to go return the van. So I was just like flustered that I was getting the cooking on. This was the
Right.
first time I was actually properly cooking for these guys. And we had, the passengers helped me set up the tent and everything. So it was going really well. I think I remember I was cooking that night. I was cooking sausages, polenta, and grilled veg. Really good.
Ooh. Ooh,
Yeah.
you're making me hungry.
It was actually a really good meal. However, so I've served them there sort of we usually serve them between 2 and 3 courses, depending on the day and depending on, how much time I have and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So so the setup of the tent is I have a pretty decently sized tent for the trip. And I have what are essentially are gas burners on metal frames suspended above the ground. So they're not sitting below on the ground. They've got these legs. And I've got 3 burners in one and 2 burners on another. They're attached to a hose to a gas tank, propane tank. And I use them to do the majority of my cooking. One of the great things and one of my favorite pieces of equipment is actually the cast iron top that we get given to use this. It's heavy, it's a pain to clean, but man, I love cooking on that thing.
Okay.
So I pull out my beautiful cast iron, sort of think of it like a topper. Think of it like a cast iron skillet on a massive scale. So it's probably about 1 foot wide and about 3 foot long. And I put that over the top of the flames, and it heats it really hot. And I was cooking the grilled vegetables on there. Now, it was a day, pretty flustered, pretty tired, not really thinking straight. Safety first.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I had a bit of accumulation of oil on the side that I sort of cooled, because the problem with a lot of these reused equipment over time and trips is they tend to become, and people don't know how to properly care for cast iron, and the cast iron eventually gets a bit warped. So it had a little bit of a warp, and sort of oil had pooled
built up,
in on the side through the warping. Now, I believe that I thought that I'd switch the flames off.
Okay.
And generally what I would do is I would switch the flames off, give it a second, and just sort of flip off the cast iron top, so that I could either put things on the flame and just move it onto like the gravel behind to sort of start the cooling process, so it wasn't staying hot underneath the elements. But so as today was no exception. I was doing the same thing as I'd done in my training and done a few times before on the previous trip. And I go to flip my cast iron tray. A pile of the oil then hits the flame underneath as I look and see that I have not switched the fire off. And it's a quick, very sudden whoosh of flame as it engulfs me.
Oh my God.
The front of my shirt and my hair and behind me. And behind me are my passengers.
Oh my God.
Witnessing this moment, and I just hear this massive gasp. Now, me, thankfully I wasn't facing them. I took a quick moment, took a breath in, checked I was okay. And then I turned around and said, "Hey guys, is my hair on fire?" And they were like, "No." And I said, "Well, then I'm good. Cool. Carry on eating your dinner."
It didn't burn your hair?
Well, so we had a few concerned citizens that wanted to come around and double check on me. My passengers on this trip were ever so sweet. So thankfully I was wearing a beanie hat, a toque, if you will, for us Canadians, with a nice big pom-pom on the top. And a few of them had come around to the back of the tent because I had the back of the tent open for aeration. And they came and double checked with me and said, "Are you okay? Like, are you sure?" And I said, "Well, I can feel a little, the flames got my face a bit. I felt like I got a bit of a sunburn, if you will."
Not so bad.
And
not so
all
bad.
I see is this beautiful girl. She was just looking at me and checking, and her face drops. And I sort of go, "What's wrong?" And she just puts her little fingers just on the top of my forehead where my hairline is. And I just hear a little crackle crunch as my hair descended over my face in small, tiny burnt pieces. And it took a little second of sadness for me to actually put my own hands on the top of my head where my hairline is, probably about an inch where my hair had been exposed in front of my hat.
Uh-huh.
To find that it was just completely crunchy and burnt my head. And then I just start doing a little feel around, and I also feel the back of my head. You know, you get those little baby
The
hairs at
baby
the back
hairs.
of your head. Crunch,
Oh.
crunch. Now, at this point, sanitary reasons, I realized that I have to get out of the cook tent because I'm getting bits of my burnt hair everywhere.
Oh no.
And I'd fed the passengers, so they were fine. So I was like, I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to have a look and see what the damage is properly. So I go up to my cabin, which thankfully wasn't very far away. And I look in the mirror, and I just the tears started. Because at that point, I had realized that, yes, my eyebrows were still intact, but my eyelashes had been reduced to about 1 millimeter in length. And there was these little black beads where my eyelashes were supposed to be. Now, you know,
you had alopecia.
You know what? It did borderline look like that. And as I sat there and combed my hair out, because I obviously didn't want to be in a cook tent with broken, shredding hair, I was just had to take a moment. All of this, by the way, had occurred while my trip leader and my driver were not present and able to assist or aid me in any way. So we had just sort of taken an evaluation and then come back and look at my frazzled, burnt face. And, it was, you know what, it was definitely, like I said, learning curve. We learned things. I just wish it had happened at the end of the trip. I didn't have to go through the rest of the trip with burnt hair and no eyelashes. But it did become a standing joke. Oh yes, fully recovered.
Fully recovered. Everything's
couple hair lots, things. Yeah, eyelashes actually grew back very, very quickly. I was very surprised, but not surprised. But the hair took a little while and probably like a full year to actually, and a few haircuts to actually come back to its natural state. But the passengers did really appreciate it because I think, you know, at the end of it all, it's a story to go home with. Our trip leader our touring chef burned her eyelashes off, and they would continually make jokes about buying me mascara or fake lashes as gifts when I left. It was very, very funny.
Oh my God.
The nonsense of it all.
That's the first that I've heard. Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks. Can you imagine missing an inch of hairline all over? Some people do that. I recently, okay, don't judge me, but Corona has got me so bored that I started watching some episodes of Jerry Springer back on YouTube. You remember Jerry Springer, right?
Yeah, I loved a good sick day from school to watch some Jerry.
Exactly. So it's terrible. I won't be watching it again, but there was an episode where like somebody was getting married to someone but cheating on them, you know, the usual. And this person had purposely shaved about the same thing, the same look that you had involuntarily. They shaved an inch of their hairline all over. I'm like, why? Like, how could that possibly look good to be missing an inch of hairline on purpose? Where you can tell it can grow back.
I don't know.
It's not like, oh, I'm balding, let's just take it off. It's like, oh no, I have hair.
And here it is. Yeah. Here's the punchline. I did it on purpose. It was a fashion statement. Some sort of sadistic Norwegian ritual.
Yeah, you were in hell, right? So.
Well, that's it. That's it. Here's hell, everyone.
The sadistic Norwegian ritual of hell. Burn everybody's hair off.
That's it. Absolutely.
Crazy. I love that. Love that so much. That's a great first season into being a touring chef as well. Like you're thinking this is going to be easy or maybe hard, but like, you know, I'm going to do my best. And just like one of the biggest mess ups you can have in the kitchen, right? Besides just messing up all the food and losing it would be almost burning yourself or the place down. Yeah,
well, you know, I think that's something that I just had to sort of step back and go, you know what? It could have actually been, I lost a bit of hair and some eyelashes and singed my coat a bit, but, you know, like I'm still here. And I think I would have rather just that than a trip to the ER and for my passengers to have lived without a chef the rest of the trip. That would have probably been a lot worse off. So perspective, everyone, perspective.
Was there anything else that happened in Europe worth mentioning, or shall we go straight to the cruise ship stories because I'm so pumped?
Working on cruise ships definitely opens your eyes to a totally different way of working. So difficult orders is definitely a thing. You thought that on our trip and our training trip that we had an extensive amount of dietaries. Wait till you have 200 old people on a cruise ship. We'll talk about
Oh no.
dietaries.
What
And
kind of restrictions are we talking about?
well, it comes down to this, and the type of cruise line that I was actually working for was an ultra luxury cruise liner. And so these people were paying up the nose for essentially all inclusive. And that meant
Right.
all inclusive. We're talking the bougiest things that you can think of in regards to food and drink, and at their disposal and at their
Like
want.
what?
And caviar, champagne. If they
Wow.
wanted, I don't know, foie gras for dinner, um, every single night, they get foie gras for dinner every single night. At special requests. And you think that so in terms of dietaries, yes, that was already challenging enough. But the fact that these people have open access to anything they want at any time and can request a special order within 24 hours and have it in their lap, and that was
Mm.
probably the most challenging part, because that in itself creates a lot more work. So the more special orders, the more work everyone has, right?
Yeah.
You have a section, let's say you're the fish, and they want this particular specially made fish every single day. Well, that's an added piece of work that I have to make sure that I have done every single day. And that extends your already prolonged day in the kitchen.
Right, of course. Was there
Mm-hmm.
any order that like pops out in your mind? You're like, oh fuck, I had to do this one for so long. It was so annoying. Or maybe a complaint, someone sent the food back. Like I'm thinking that episode in Friends where Janice keeps sending the chicken back to Monica because it's too dry, now it's
Oh
too wet, or
goodness.
whatever.
Um, Goodness, I think that happened all the time. The biggest thing, obviously, with people is cold food. So
It's
constantly,
cold.
it's always cold. So I think also the thing is that people don't realize is that the galley, the kitchen, the galley on a cruise ship, as it's called, is actually not directly adjacent to the dining room. And so we would have to send out our plates, probably, I don't know, like just searing hot plates. And by the time they get to the diner, they're maybe at an adequate temperature, and sometimes
Hmm.
they're not. So cold food is probably one of that sort of I don't know, that target market of which the cruise ships the passengers that used to come to our cruise ships, was probably one of the biggest complaints, was always cold
So what
food.
would you do? Like, let's say like someone was like, "Oh, this lasagna is cold." Would you like make another lasagna and then send your fastest chef to go run it down to the dining room? Like, how do you even get it back without it going cold again?
That's probably a fast walk in maitre d', and we had plenty of
Yeah.
those.
Okay, you
But there would also
send
be
your
like
fastest maitre d'.
preheating that plate
Hmm.
at the highest oven setting to make sure that it was just like, if it didn't go through that heat didn't go through 2 tea towels, it just wasn't worth it.
Right.
Like heat it up again, it's not ready.
Oh my
If you
god.
can't recook the food on the plate, it's not ready.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's annoying. But what about these drunk
Yeah,
nights? I want to hear about the crazy stuff that happens behind closed doors on a cruise ship. Tell me what you guys got up to.
goodness, I don't know if I can go too much into detail about this, but I think that one of the things that sort of creates a community on the cruise ship is, the camaraderie and the sticking it to the man,
Stick
as
it
we
to the
all do.
man. Neosis.
Sticking it
Love
to the
it.
man.
Love it.
So it's the idea, sneaking food, sneaking booze, the working with the mafia, as we used to call
What?
them. We don't. I think so. Proverbial mafia. I
Okay.
think you have to look at it. It's like there was. I don't think there was ever a mafia. It was more of a proverbial mafia, because if anyone asked where you got something, it was all the mafia, right? There wasn't a mafia,
Gotcha.
but if if you knew the right people and if you knew the right way to play it, you could get yourself pretty much anything within reason.
Uh huh.
I'm not saying that you're going to get a $500 tin of beluga caviar, But, compared to our crew mess, food wasn't necessarily always the standard, as we were obviously left what the passengers sort of wouldn't eat, or what was soon to be going bad
Right.
was more for us, right? So at certain points, sometimes the food was absolutely incredible. Sometimes the crew food was beyond amazing, overreaching, and sometimes it was just unedible, right? It was just, you couldn't eat it.
Right.
So I actually spent a lot of my time eating off the cruise ship. Whenever I had a chance to get out of port, I also like to try what was local in the area and whatever port we were
Right.
in. We would also, one of the great things about that was, it would, depending on what station you're on, you could also cook yourself some food, and be sneaky about it. So, for one position I was on, called the entremetier station, but my dinner service, I actually cooked the regular steak, lamb chops, and chicken. So you knew the right people, and you knew if someone needed a steak and you could get something in return, it was very valuable.
Wow.
Very
I
valuable.
see what you mean about this mafia. You guys were trading things that weren't even yours to trade. Like, oh, give me a bottle of booze, I'll give you this pork chop.
I don't know what you're talking
It's
about.
like
It's the mafia.
there's cruise ship currency.
You have to sort of try and find ways to make that experience more enjoyable. And if that meant, bartering a one strip loin every now and again for a little bit of a taste of something that wasn't crappy alcohol, then yeah, of course, do it. Why not?
Yeah,
And for a lot of
of
people as
course.
well, it sounds horrible, but these cruxes were used to help you sleep at night, or being at sea for however many days in a row can take its toll on the mind, and sometimes you need a little something to take the edge off.
Of course.
We actually weren't served liquor generally in the crew bar until very later on, until complaints started happening, and I think they realized they were more at a loss for not charging us for liquor as opposed to people stealing it.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it gets to a point where you have to find your enjoyment in that work. One of the best parts of this job, very much like our job in being together last year, was that you get to meet such fantastic people. And that's what I took away from that cruise ship generally, was the friendships that I got, and the people that I met, and the experience that they gave me and taught me. Because I swear to goodness, that kitchen, and being in that kitchen for 2 years, and being so green out of culinary school, so ever so green, I learned more in that 2 years than I probably would have if I'd stayed at home. And I give that thanks to those boys, those hardworking men, my Filipino brothers in that kitchen, working day to day to day,
Mm.
just to make sure that their family has above ends meet at home. That's where it sort of lies.
That's really sweet. That's moving. I didn't see
We
this
got deep there. This is supposed to be about drunk stories, and here I am talking about privilege and shit. Gee,
not
man.
about drunk stories, but I think it's cool for people to know like the background to some stuff as well. Like there's a time to like be fun and talk about silly things, like the fact that you traded lamb chops for like a bottle of alcohol or something like that. And then also it's cool to know like the people behind the industry,
Yeah.
and like who's actually sacrificing what and putting themselves where they are for your enjoyment.
Yeah,
Some people don't think about that, how hard it takes to get to where you are. Well,
exactly.
the only thing I can't say, because I can't talk about the cruise ships, I wasn't there, but the only thing I can say about the company we worked for is not that, for the tour guides, we studied for 6 months and then did 51 days on the road. Like that sounds hard, but what's actually difficult is giving your all to the job 100% of the time, and your day is literally, it's a 24-hour clock for you.
Yeah.
Like you don't get off. When you're asleep, the phone rings for you when somebody gets hurt. So you're always on. And the most difficult part is unappreciative clients, unappreciative passengers, people that purposely make your job harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
It just makes you go like, why am I doing this? Because I work way harder than I need to. And usually the takeaway is something like that, like a really good crew like you had on the cruise ships, or passengers that appreciate all the effort you made. Hey Guys, before we get to our next story, I just want to talk about an amazing new company called Sweet Ginger Bakes that's making the most delicious baked goods out of Ottawa right now. It's run by one of my best friends, Jess, who's sweet, a ginger, and can definitely bake. So if you're in or around the Ottawa, Montreal area, be sure to go on Instagram and follow her at sweetginger.bakes to send your orders in directly to her. Now, let's get back to the show. Surviving tourism. Resume. We unfortunately had a quick little pause because parents don't obey restrictions and they come in and fix air conditioners at the wrong time and you can hear them in the back. You know what? Today during my class, I'm in Zoom. I'm muted, but you can see me. And my dad walks in and starts having a full-blown conversation with me in the back. But as you can see, my door's behind me, so I couldn't see him or hear him because I was plugged in until he like comes up and we both realize like we're being filmed and he's here. And he was like, ah! And just like ran out the door. I'm sure the class loved it.
Oh my goodness, amazing. Yes. So anyway, we were talking. So Europe was harder for me in terms of finding things that were helpful for dietaries and simulating things that were very similar to what they were. But it seemed like, depending on the country, but it seems like it's gotten a lot better. I was surprised to find more than there what I had anticipated being. I was like, I'm not going to be able to make risotto out of what, you know? So, but no, there was plenty of like soy substitutes and things like that.
But you didn't go into the Baltic countries, did you? Oh, sorry, not the Baltic. You didn't go into the Balkans, did you?
No, I don't think so.
When you take passengers into the Balkans, it's really difficult to accommodate for diets because people there just haven't heard of some of these diets. So they might have heard of a vegetarian, but they've never heard of a vegan. Have you ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yes.
Yeah, where Ian is a vegetarian and he's like, he tells the aunt like, oh, I'm a vegetarian. She's like, it's okay. I make lamb. And it's just like, what?
Exactly. And I think it's a lot of them, like, especially with language translations, they don't have a differentiation between vegetarian and vegan.
Yeah.
They don't know. So what they think is vegan is also vegetarian, is also gluten-free, is also lactose-free. I think that going to a restaurant was more stressful for ensuring dietaries than me actually cooking because I had control.
100%. Right? It also depends who you get. I've been to Greece and, have had a hard time. And then the last time I went to Greece, they were so good. Like they went through the menu, gave me options. There was vegetarian moussaka. There was regular moussaka. There was stuffed bell peppers with like more veggies and stuff inside for the vegans. Like it was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really depends what you get.
Exactly.
All right. Any final comments or stories, anything that you can think of worth telling from all your experiences combined? Great stories you've told over the years. I don't
know. How much have you guys talked about site work?
We haven't mentioned it at all. Do you want to talk about site work? Because I feel like site work. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, let's get into it. So site work, before we start talking about site work, because I know you have some stories. Site work, it means we had 3 different sites, one in Paris, one in Switzerland, Lauterbrunnen, and then one in Venice, Italy, where chefs would be there waiting for a group. They would cook for the group for the amount of time that they were there. And then the next group would come as the first one rolled out. And so you were kind of like almost a stay-at-home cook because you stayed in one spot, but you did switch around sites. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about site work stories. Okay, take it away.
Yes, no problem. I think that's where you would definitely see a lot of interesting things happen, right? Well, I think going through sites on a trip and staying on site as a site worker is two very different things. Because it's accountability, right? So it's like you're not accountable for the passengers on site to an extent. I say that to an extent because you are slightly accountable for their welfare to an extent, but it's actually more on the existing trip leader, driver, and on-road chefs that are accountable for the groups that come in. For me, my favorite groups were the ones that would get absolutely ham on the free wine that we provided for them in the Venice Cook Tent.
Yep.
Like, take it all, down it all. I want to see a chugging contest in the middle of dinner.
Hell yeah.
Get it? Absolutely. Um, and
Chugging contest.
also
I
pool
had a
parties.
group once, wasn't my group, but they were there and they all took off their shirts to go have dinner because it was hot. And so just imagine like a sweaty, sticky body covered in wine. And after they got so drunk that there was a birthday girl, she was so drunk she didn't even stick around for her birthday cake and song because she was passed out in her room before then. They then went to the bar. Like, yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The Venice side. Okay. I forgot about this one. And this is a fundamental story.
Okay. I like this facial expression I'm seeing.
And I am unsure of whether you have seen the video of another trip later and myself falling off the Venice bar.
No, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen the video of you guys, of anybody falling off a bar, I think. Oh, what happened?
Okay. Well, so as part of the Venice experience,
of course,
the bar, hoping on the anticipation of pulling more passengers into the bar and buying more drinks. Yay, we love that. They love that. Mm-hmm. We like to see our passengers having a good time and partying. We like to see them a little hungover during the walking tour the next day because it makes the trip leader feel a little better about themselves also being hungover. And and so we do shots. So the bartenders provide the trip leaders and site workers bottles of alcohol to then get on top of the bar and pour alcohol
directly into the mouth of everyone. Wow. Basically, what the world needs now with COVID.
Exactly. There's no cross-contamination. I just freely turn the bottle up for it, and they open up their mouths like little babies, chirping and feeding. And it's such a fun time. I didn't always do it. Like
that's exactly how I felt, like a baby, like a mama bird feeding her babies.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't always do it. If I got asked to by a trip leader or something, I would. Or if I was the one sort of initiating it, like with him, I was like, "Hey, do you want your passengers shots? Let's organize this. Let's do it." So anyway, the songs for the shots come on.
Shots.
Yeah. And that trip leader that I had initiated with at the time, we decided to go up. So we have a chair behind the bar. So we go to the back of the bar where the bartenders are. We get on the chair. And now this is where it gets funny because neither of us can quite conclude whose fault it was. Not that there was really any fault, but more like what actually happened or how. But I think it came down to pure like weight imbalance and wearing the wrong kind of footwear. We are both wearing the inadequate footwear.
Oh no.
So the trip leader goes onto the bar, steps up halfway, sort of 1 foot on, 1 foot slightly off, and proceeds to pull me up. I then also get 1 foot on the bar, weighted, and bring another foot up. And as I'm leaning up, he leans back.
Oh, no.
I think a flip flop was broken on his shoe, and so he hits me. I fall off, hit chair.
Oh, on the way down, you hit the chair?
Yeah, I rolled off and hit the chair. Then this poor guy then falls on top to me. Thank goodness for him, because if he didn't hit the floor directly.
You took all his weight, though? He's a big guy.
But it was sort of like he hit and rolled, and then I rolled onto the floor afterwards. So there's this big climax for these shots to happen, and then it's like, yeah, oh.
Did you break the bottle on your way down?
Thank goodness neither of us had the shot bottles in our hands.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, that would have been bad.
It took a lot because I think we were both so pumped full of adrenaline at that time that we just didn't sort of look at where we were, but I just got him up. Put his flip-flops back together and said, get up on that bar and give your trip leader shots. I'll take care of this. And I sat there and proceeded to try and clean up the mess.
Oh my God.
As the bartenders yelled at me to not worry about it. And I was just like so pumped full of adrenaline, a little bit dizzy, a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a 4-foot fall.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do want to talk about this, but wasn't there also like a habit of people hooking up with other, like especially in Switzerland, other groups that were in the campsite? Like there were some Marines at one point and stuff like that.
From what I've been told, so when I actually got to Lauterbrunnen, the season was essentially at its end, and the trips were few and far between, and the Marines had moved on. So there comes apparently there comes a time every year in Ladeford in Switzerland where the Marines come in from the UK, set up camp, and do some training. I was not there for this. I just heard the stories, and I'm actually really upset that you brought it up because it still actually brings a lot of pain in my heart.
You're bitter. Well, you've had your fun. You were in Venice for a while. I'm sure you had your fun in Venice, right?
Well, you know what? When there's a will, there's a way, and
you're not going to spend the whole summer by yourself.
But no passengers.
No, never. I honestly don't see the temptation that I've heard people have had. I don't see it. They're like my babies. They're my children. And I get annoyed at them when they make me work harder than I have to. And I love them when they cherish me and idolize the ground that I walk on, you know?
Exactly. You know, we're supposed to be the ones protecting and making sure they're having a great time. No need to taint it. No need to taint it with our lustful thirst. I directed mine somewhere far beyond that, you know? And it was always just so much fun.
There you go.
You know, we're in Venice.
I do love that you said, though, that you were in Lauterbrunnen, and at the end of the season, there wasn't much going on, but I came through during that time. Do you remember? And I got the worst hangover of my European career on that night because
like we
basically
didn't even party that hard.
You know what happened though? So I hadn't drunk in a while, like consistent drinking, because I had just had 2 weeks off and I had been drinking for so much before. I was like, you know what? I need an alcohol break. And then that night you were like, let's drink. I hate red wine. I only like white. But the driver that I was with and you guys were drinking red wine. So you served me red. And I was like, that's fine. I can drink some red. So I drank a little bit of red wine. Like they were little glasses. So I probably had like 8. But 8 glasses, little but 8 glasses. And then I decided that I was tipsy. And when you get a tipsy Paula, she's just like, you're not tipsy, keep drinking. So then I chugged like 2 or 3 tall boys of beer. This is when things started going south real quick because I finally made it to the bar because we were just like drinking and chatting at the tent and whatnot. When I finally made it to the bar, someone gave me another beer. Halfway through, I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. I still feel coherent. What's up? I don't know. Go to bed, sleep. Woke up 2 hours later. So I literally slept from 10:30 to 12:30. That's how early my night was done. And started violently puking red wine into my garbage that had no lining. So I was puking directly into the garbage. But the thing is, after I puked up all the red wine, I was still nauseous. And now I had like broken the seal of vomiting. So I started puking bile. There was like nothing left. I was literally puking bile into this.
Going like to that point.
And I'm pretty sure I like screamed up to the gods like, why? There's nothing left. Like, stop making me puke. But I had to keep like making the noise of but like nothing coming out. Anyways, all I know is I was so tired after this. I just went back to sleep next to this bucket full of bile and old red, disgusting. When I woke up, this thing was still there, obviously. So I just went outside, like dumped it real quick, rinsed it, put it back in the room, didn't talk about it. Like just nauseous the whole day after. So bad.
Also the fresh air, it's the altitude. That's what got
That's what it is. It wasn't the alcohol. Altitude. It wasn't drinking an absurd amount of wine and a couple tall boys and then just puking it all up. That wasn't why I puked it up.
It's the altitude.
Alcohol, irrelevant. Exactly.
You blame everything on the altitude.
Perfect. Good. Now I know. Hayley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. You're a gem as per usual.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me too. I hope that your next semester goes well in school. And good luck with that. And I mean, I'm sure we're going to keep in touch and all that. But thanks for being a part of the episode today. And hopefully you'll have a couple more fun stories for us next time we chat.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Surviving.